come and visit, Stefanos. Hi, great to see you, Olaf, Stefanos.
Great to see you.
Yeah. How are you all? Are you good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird time, busy, but we learn to live over the distance and do things like that. I'm in the north of Ontario. We closed our cottage this weekend, and now I'm at a hotel, and I can give a talk, and then we have to drive back home. And
you're trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Eduardo, can you quickly WhatsApp me the link? Pri can't get in. He wants the link on his phone, but I'll just get us going while you send me the link how to log in. He's struggling to log in. You just WhatsApp me.
Yes, Stefan, I think you can go.
Okay. So let's go.
So I just go.
Well, let me just first introduce you, Olaf.
Oh, okay.
So,
hi, Janice. There's so many people that I know.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our last session of this ICF Education Symposium, the 7th one, and the best for the last. It's great to have in this session with us Prof. Olaf Kastekemarkru from McMaster University in Canada. Olaf is a developmental pediatrician. When he's not in his cabin somewhere in the woods. So Olaf, I guess if you remove that background, he's probably sitting under a pine tree or something. So Olaf, welcome.
It's cold and it's raining. I'm inside, so.
Oh, you're inside. Okay. So yeah, we've been collaborating. There's quite a few of us. So if you look at the screen, been working on the ICANN function ML solution over the past 2 years, trying to bring that to maturity or to get it off the ground. So Olaf will share a little bit about his experiences about the MICF and patient-driven data and where things should go. Olaf, you weren't here yesterday, but Lauri is also on the call. He did some great things in Finland over the past 3-4 years regarding AI. He shared that yesterday regarding ICF. We've had Bedaran earlier today, who also shared, and Patrick Eklund, interesting things about the ways how they see ICF can go if we talk about taking it away from paper and away just from the web, but to use different techniques to really give it total wings and take it to space. So we're looking forward to hear your thoughts. Olaf.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. Let me share my screen and get us going. Is this bar also showing here? Let me take that up here. Yeah. Okay, MICF and patient-driven data. And
you're not in presentation mode, Olaf. If you can just show slideshow. We just see your.
You don't see the full screen?
No, we don't. Only we see the.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
Olaf.
Sorry
Thanks.
about that. It was set up for 2 screens and I don't have 2 screens here. So,
Okay.
so it's MICF and patient-driven data. And what I'm going to talk about is more reflection on where we started. And it is doing that, I realized we're almost 10 years working on this idea. And so for those of the audience that are younger than we are, it might be also a lesson in perseverance and not giving up on your dreams. And I still believe that we will get there eventually. But first, I want to share some thoughts about what do we actually understand by patient-driven data. So what kind of data would patients want to share? And that's something we need to ask the patients themselves. And it reminded me of a story that I witnessed some years ago in one of our patient forums. So CanChild is the research center where I work as well. And we have a very strong family engagement policy or philosophy for many years. And some years ago, we entered also into social media and have an online parents group. I think there are over 200 parents in there. And one time, one of the mothers, and the names here are obviously changed, complained in the group that it was about this time of the year, soon after the Canadian Thanksgiving. And she commented that at the celebration, she really struggled with all the deprecating comments her family members made about her son, Eric, during those celebrations. So he did not behave and perform as the larger family expected. So he did not eat as other kids his age. He did not behave like them or play like them. And she was really tired of all these well-meaning advice and how she should better educate him and how she should raise her child. But he was a child with obvious delays in his development, but not a clear diagnosis. And she felt it's very difficult to explain to parents if you don't have a diagnosis. And then other parents made suggestions that she could maybe write up something to explain her son, even not having a diagnosis, to her family. And they also mentioned for her to connect with her therapist and doctors to see him. And she said, well, they are very good at giving advice and they prescribe medications for the behavior and exercises to train his motor and social skills, but still it is difficult to explain it to the family. And every time that something is not going as expected, the family blames her or blames Eric that he did something wrong. So she needed a different way to explain Eric. And then she came up, and that was completely on her own without knowing anything about ICF and about functioning and all the topics that we're discussing this weekend, and wrote up a sheet of paper. I am Eric, what works for me? And the intention was to give this to the family the next time she would meet them. So there are some ideas. Give me time to talk. I may take longer, but I have lots to say. So that would be an attitude or environmental factor. Let me eat what I can, when I can. I know what foods are safe for me, and forcing me to eat won't help. So again, that's how you deal with him and the family as environmental factor. If I'm acting poorly, let my mom deal with it. So it's not your business to punish me or to tell me how I should do things. If I'm not doing that right, I might have difficulties in doing that, but let the mom deal with that. And if I get overwhelmed by sensory input, noise, sight, touch, my behavior may look inappropriate, but it is my reaction to an overwhelming situation. Please give me time alone. And on the other side, she shared also things I am learning, because family members might be having the idea, well, nothing is going forward, nothing he is developing, not as he should, and his mom is not really investing in this. So she put in some things that he is learning. I'm learning to chew and swallow food. I'm learning to talk clearly. I'm learning to play well with my friends. And you will find there are elements that you can find in the activities and participation. What I like doing with playing with my sister, staying close to mom, running around, pretend play with my toys, helping mom bake home and clean. And what is important for me, good sensory regulation, proper nutrition with Pediasure. That's a supplement that is a brand here from Canada. People who are patient with me. And what people say about me, and we have here some personal factors. I'm busy, adorable, smart, funny, hyper, small, the guy who doesn't eat, hard to understand. So that would be the data that patients probably would love to share and would benefit if others knew about these data, not only the other family members, but also teachers, educators, and the therapists and doctors that are going to see Eric in the future and don't know him yet. So in clinical practice, it happens that patients tell their stories over and over, but the important parts are often missed. So they tell the story that they think is important for the doctor to make a decision, or the story that is important for the teacher to make a decision and understand the learning. But many things in between are forgotten or are not asked for, or parents don't feel that they can share them. But what if we could manage and share what is important to them? And then the healthcare teams could interact and collaborate better. So patients would share, obviously, also their physical symptoms, but also their experiences, their goals, their priorities, and their values. And once we have this type of data, and you might have heard ideas about that already, when we classify and analyze large data sets, we can then learn much more from each other. And this can be, again, helpful for all of us, both the individual patients, but also us as clinicians can learn new aspects, researchers can learn new things, and also the administrations that decide about services that should be made available to this population. So patients will contribute what matters, professionals will collaborate and communicate, and researchers will develop improved insights. That was the main idea at the beginning of MICF. And the first time that it was operationalized in some ideas was in 2012. That's what I said almost 10 years ago in Hamilton. Two students worked with me in a pitch at a conference here in Hamilton in Canada, Apps for Health. And based on that mock-up, we developed a grant application for the Canadian Institute of Health Research grant, and also for the Innovation Fund here from our hospital, and we're not successful. But we didn't give up. So Jared and Leo, they graduated, did other stuff now, but people here at Canchild and also others, and that's the next aspect, parallel to what I was thinking here. Stefanos was having the very similar ideas in South Africa and wanted to have an application that could help community health workers in South Africa to capture what is important for the population, especially also in remote areas, and have a better understanding of their functioning besides their physical health symptoms, to organize and the support and help for that population. So Stefanos and I had a Zoom call, or I don't know what it was, if Zoom existed at that time already, but we had a virtual conversation and decided to meet together at the meeting, the annual meeting of the WHO Function Disability Reference Group, where he was, I think at the time, the secretary. And so we met in Beijing and presented this joint idea at this meeting and developed this part within the work plan of the Function Disability Reference Group. We decided before moving forward, we would need to develop a needs assessment to understand what would people really want to have in such an application, and also to look for partners to join an idea without money, because neither he nor I had money. We just had the idea. And we thought, well, if we have more people that share that idea with us, maybe the chances are better to get some money to invest into that. So we met again. Now we met always at these meetings of the FDRG, and the meeting in 2014 was in Barcelona. And you already see in the picture, there's a bigger group of people that all came together, and we presented the results from a needs assessment done with 1,500 responses from all over the world. And we had partners from over 20 different countries. And from there on, we developed then work packages based on those needs assessment, how we would work further to develop such an application. And that is always, besides on our regular work, on weekends, nights, and so on. So we prepared to apply for a multi-center international grant proposal and work from there forward. In 2015, we had a meeting in Helsinki, and you'll see Stefano's quite active and engaging here. And that was worthwhile because we got some money from the Finnish government. So we got a small grant to develop a proof of concept for the front end part of the application. So the part that the users would be using, and it was then tested with children and adults with disabilities. And based on that experience, we then put together a grant proposal for a Horizon 2020 grant, which is an European grant. You might have heard about that. It was in the news recently that with Brexit, unfortunately, researchers from the United Kingdom are not able to apply anymore for this grant. And what we did also to organize a bit this growing group of people that wanted to collaborate, we developed a memorandum of agreement and established a facilitation team to coordinate all the activities that were increasing. This is the Memorandum of Understanding signatories, and you will find one or the other university where you work at, I hope so. We are now 30 partners from 14 countries, and there are individuals, institutions from different places. CIF Brazil is one of the partners as well. And for the grant, not everybody could apply because the Horizon 2020 grants are limited to certain countries and or collaborating partners. So these were the partners that applied. Unfortunately, we were not successful, but it was very helpful to work on this grant because it forces you to really structure your thoughts, structure your ideas, and have a better idea of what are really the requirements for such an application that we were envisioning. Then we met in Bangkok, in Tokyo, again at the meetings of the FDRG, and decided to focus on one element of our ICANN function solution, which is what we call the function mapper. And that came out of the work with colleagues from Finland. And it is basically a large database that has the content of the ICF in that database, the codes, the original terms in English, but then also lay terms for lay users or for patients to be able to put in their information in easier language than the official WHO terminology. And that database also allows to have these lay terms then also translated in different languages. So we worked on different languages. Dutch is in there, German is in there, Portuguese, Spanish, Korean, and so on. So this will be an important element, and that is quite developed now in order to capture data that is put in from patients and code it into the ICF codes. Still no money to work on the app itself or on a big data algorithm, that is the eventual vision to analyze the data that patients share. Somebody has their microphone on there, I think, in the background. Then we met again in 2018 in Hamburg, and at that time we really structured how we are going to work together. So we created that organigram. I won't go through all the different streams here, but basically it is one area that is the research funders, or mainly the ones of us that work in university and want to have an application like that to do research with that. Then we have technology founders and funders. So these are the people that would do more the applied research or develop applications, develop the whole intellectual property for that app. And then we would have commercial partners or commercial stream, where we have companies that could be run in different countries with different purposes, but sharing the same infrastructure. So it's a distributed system of knowledge capture and sharing of intellectual property in order to facilitate the development of such a product without needing the big investment from one let's say one Google or one Apple or one Microsoft behemoth that would then probably use it also for other purposes. So we wanted to have that collaborative approach, and I think that is also one of the reasons we are taking longer. But it is, I think, the more the time passes, the more I see what is happening with digital information and with things going on Facebook, for example, sharing information from participants between Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, and so on. So I think it is really important to have a good thought about how we are going to protect that very sensitive information that is being captured when patients share their own data. And well, now we are in Sao Paulo, at least virtually, unfortunately not in person. Abraço, São Paulo. And we still do not have the app, but I think we have a lot of positive aspects of that. We made, first of all, friends around the world, as you could see in the pictures. Many of them are now also watching here. We continue engaged as a collaborative. Somebody is calling, sorry. And we spread the word about the importance of patient-driven information and the importance of patient-owned data. I think that discussion has become much more relevant as we go. So some things that we thought 10 years ago, we would probably not do now. And in that sense, I think that delay has been helpful. Patients also are changing in these years. Patients are becoming much more aware of the risks in using online information and sharing information online. And I think that development has been, in general, quite helpful. So we have a clearer view of what is possible, what is not. And we have, and Stefanos might share some ideas about that if we have still time. We have a company in South Africa that launched Fire Diabetes in 40 days, which is an I Can Function Health is one of the operation companies. That was the right column of our organigram. And they had the luck to get some money, some seed investments, and are collecting data from patients that have type 2 diabetes and want to revert the diabetes, collecting data about their functioning and then also advising them. So it's the patients already have the benefit of many of them reverting the diabetes, losing weight, being healthier, but the company also gathers data what is important for patients to share, and that will be really helpful to develop further the whole flow of information and the interface on how patients interact with such an application. So if you want to learn more about that, there's a dedicated website to that. And this helped also to develop a business plan, and now we are more focused in looking for investors instead of applying for research grants, as we hope that this might be more successful, as it has been in South Africa with fire diabetes, and we hope to work on that. And I'm happy to take any questions, and hopefully Stefanos can answer some of them as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Olaf. Any questions for Olaf at this stage? Good. Then I'm going to hand over to Gurpreet. He joined us. He was able to connect. I'm not sure where he is. I can't see him now.
I'm here. Do you see me?
Oh, there you are. I see your light. I don't see your face. You can just move your camera a bit.
Okay.
Up,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we can see. Now we can see you. Yeah. Welcome. So.
Yeah. Just a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Bye, Stefanos. I need to leave now.
Okay.
Bye, Gurpreet.
Thanks, Olaf. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Bye-bye, Olaf. Okay. So we can continue with this session now. I would invite Pedro Martins Jardim, and the topic is ICF teaching skills for medical doctors. So Pedro, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Please go ahead. It's all yours.
Okay. Just sharing the screen.
Pedro, after I would like to ask something to Olaf, but I think it can be after 2 or 3 presentations. What do you think, Stefan?
It's up to you. My topic's a little bit different, so
Yeah.
if you wanna.
Yeah. Okay. We can take the questions perhaps now, because I also have to run, and I see Laurie also have a question. So is it okay, Gurpreet, that we do the electronic stuff first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. So I was looking in the chat. I was not getting the questions, so I thought maybe there are no questions. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Okay. No, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start.
Eduardo, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, it's the same question I did Olaf last year. Olaf, you have too many colleagues in Brazil, and I would like to hear from you. What is your opinion about ICF researchers and ICF skills in Brazil when you compare Brazil with other countries?
Yes, I believe Olaf left. He mentioned that he's leaving, so.
Eduardo, Olaf had to go because he he had to go onto the road. He has another appointment, so yeah.
Okay.
So maybe Stefanos.
But I mean, if I may, Eduardo, say something. I'm not that experienced as Olaf, but from my experience of having met the Brazilian colleagues, João, yourself, Cassia, and all the others, there are some amazing stuff coming out of Brazil, and I just wish we can find some funding and investment, because surely if you think the centers of expertise to develop something like MICF come strongly out of Brazil, South Africa, the Netherlands, Finland, to name but a few. And I mean, those are the countries that are currently pretty much the strongest when it comes to who want to collaborate on this MICF project. At this stage, most of the MICF partners are working and doing their bit with the funds they have. and there's not much. You do it in your spare time, or as part of what you do at the university anyway. But to really take it further and to take it to the world, we'll need to collaborate and need some investment and more money, and that's where we are currently.
Thank you, Mr.
Laurie.
Yes, it was very interesting to hear about this development and how much effort has been already put in it, and the devotion about it. I would just like to say, like little bit like outsider's viewpoint. I have not been so much involved here in Finland side in this governmental or organizational development work, but I have followed it, and it came to my mind that perhaps one option also for the future is to establish similar type of services like the Wikipedia, for example, is currently providing. So of course it is important to have like finished products which are like reliable and so on. But on the other hand, I would say that there's lots of like trending in this kind of beta testing and crowdsourcing services which are currently in change. So they are not necessarily built to be like a finished product, but they are like currently available and modified, and there's like alternative layouts available, for example. And as a computer scientist and in the field of machine learning, it would be very interesting also to consider this kind of alternative path, which somehow provides several ways to use the data, several alternative algorithms, which can be like providing more options for the people, and also perhaps minimizing the risk that if everything is invested in just one product, for example, it can be challenging. So I would be really interested in all kind of collaboration concerning these topics and machine learning and these mobile app things. So feel free to contact anytime.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thanks. Any other questions? Then I can hand over back to Brit and Pedro. Pedro, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. Mute myself. Let's try to share the screen now. Oh. Share. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Well, my topic is related to Valerius in the first session of today program, and it's about teaching ICF. She talked about OTs, and my topic here is about medical students, as I'm a physician here in Brazil. And yeah, this title here, teaching ICF to medical students, or maybe using ICF to teach medicine, should be a better way to see this topic. Why are they discussing this? Because this is not easy business. And why is it hard to talk about this? Because ICF challenges the way we are used to see, to think, to speak, and to do things related to health. So this is why it's so difficult, it's so hard to teach ICF. ICF thus brings a paradigm shift, and we are used to these schemes. We can see, for example, the ICIDH. I see this as well, a nice way of representing traditional paradigm of health and functioning, and we have a completely different biopsychosocial model, as we shall discuss later on. Let's begin by analyzing these two paradigms from 4 different perspectives. I thought this 4 may be useful. So the traditional paradigm which draw his ideas from 15th century scientific revolution. We have the scientist or the professional's attitude as an objectivity attitude. The object of study is the organism, the pathology, and its consequences. The problem is viewed as, in a way, an analytical way, in a fragmented way. And we have an explanatory approach, which is unidirectional and causal. So let's take a look now to ICF paradigm from these four perspectives. So the professional or scientist attitude, I propose it's a phenomenological attitude. It's interrogated here because ICF is not clear enough about this underlying theories. But at my point of view, you can see as a phenomenological attitude. The object of studying is the multidimensional lived experience of people in the actual context in which they live. And the problem is viewed in a complex and integral way. And instead of an explanatory approach, we have a comprehending approach, which is multidirectional with recursive interactions. So this is just an explanation of what we see in these diagrams. We have multi-dimensions, multi-directions, and all the arrows go back and forth in these recursive interactions in opposite of the simple and unidirectional previous model. So to talk about this ICF paradigm shift in medical education context, I want to speak about three dimensions: the science paradigm, a teaching model, and a health model. We have to address these three dimensions. So beginning with the science paradigm, I'm drawing many of these ideas from a book from Professor Vasconcelos, Systems Thinking, the New Approach and New Paradigm of Science. And she distinguishes a traditional, which can be named as a mechanistic epistemology, and the systemic new paradigm or new epistemology. And the traditional one she distinguishes three assumptions, which are simplicity, stability, and objectivity, and try to apply these concepts to our issue here, which is health. We can describe the simplicity as problems which are experienced, pardon, the controls are in front of my slide. Problems are viewed in a causal and explained in a causal linear way. So we have that scheme in mind with the arrows in only one direction. For the stability concept, we see the phenomena as predictable and reversible, and consequently they can be controlled. And another assumption is objectivity. And it says that reality can be known as it is, since the scientist would maintain a neutral posture. And scientific facts should only be interpreted by an expert, one who masters the scientific method. The systemic epistemology, this new paradigm, as she describes it, brought many of its ideas from advances in meteorology, cybernetics, quantum physics, some biologists such as Maturana here in Chile or von Foster, and she distinguishes three assumptions, which are complexity, instability, and intersubjectivity. So for complexity, we can see as it is a multi-directional, multi-dimensional model in which the various distinguishing elements are displayed in mutual affecting relationships, surpassing the traditional understanding of causality. Much more than causality, we have these complex relationships. Every component of the system is interacting with one another. So the focus is on the interactions, not the elements as an analytical and fragmented way of seeing things. We look at the parts in the same time as we look at the whole. And when we look at the whole, we are looking at the parts as well. We can't have part without the whole, and we can't have the whole without the parts. We always have to focus on the relations. The second assumption is instability, and the paradigm of stability or predictability begins to be questioned as it considers health as a process, unstable, something in permanent transformation. The third one is intersubjectivity. So instead of seeing himself as the holder of specialized knowledge, the professional assumes a collaborative posture as a co-participant of the construction of knowledge and of reality itself. So this collaborative posture is very important here. And we not only see reality with our own eyes, but we build a comprehension of reality and a description of reality in a community of many people. So here, just to put side by side simplicity from the traditional paradigm, we have complexity in the new one, stability, instability, objectivity, and intersubjectivity. Now going to the health model. I don't have much to say here, as you all know the traditional and the biopsychosocial model, but just for illustrating these three aspects or these three assumptions, I have some quotes from ICIDH and from ICF itself. So simplicity, I'm going to try to read this for you. I have a problem with the, there is a strip here, which is difficult for me to read. Sorry for that. Here. So for simplicity, when I cite the statement, a tool for the classification of, well, ICIDH is a tool for the classification of the consequence of disease, as well as of injuries and other disorders, and of their implications for the lives of individuals. So we have the causal idea here. Concern has been expressed that the ICIDH does not state clearly enough the role of social and physical environment in the process of handicap, and that it might be constructed as encouraging the medicalization of disablement. This is extracted from ICF, I think one of the annex. For stability, we have this phrase here, in particular, the arrows linking disease or disorder, impairment, disability, and handicap have occasionally been interpreted as representing a causal model and an indication of change over time. This representation does not allow for movement from handicap, instability, and disability back to impairment as facilitated by appropriate interventions, and has thus been taken to imply an unidirectional flow from impairment to disability to handicap. Furthermore, the graphic representation of the ICIDH framework does not adequately reflect the role of the social and physical environment in the handicap process. So we have this unidirectional and stable process. Objectivity. I can say that no reference is made to the participation of people with disability in the development of ICIDH. So we have little notion of this collective construction of knowledge. And we have an ICF comment, and the revision particularly of the impairment classification must also take into account the needs of users who are not health professionals. And for the biopsychosocial model, we have complexity illustrated in this sentence. Impairments are not contingent on etiologic or how they are developed. The presence of an impairment necessarily implies a cause. However, the cause may not be sufficient to explain the resulting impairment. So we don't need a unique cause. This is a complex phenomenon. Disability is characterized as the outcome or result of a complex relationship between an individual's health condition and personal factors and the external factors that represent the circumstances in which the individual lives. For instability, we can say impairments can be temporary or permanent, progressive or regressive or static, intermittent or continuous. The deviation from the population norm may be slight or severe and may fluctuate over time. So it's unpredictable. There is dynamic interaction among these entities. Interventions in one entity have the potential to modify one or more of the other entities. These interactions are specific and not always in a predictable one-to-one relationship. For intersubjectivity, we have the ICF revision process has, since its inception, benefited from the input of people with disabilities and organization of disabled people. So it was a collective or community process. This point of intersubjectivity is also outlined in the meta-language contained in the ICF itself, wherein professionals and their interventions are also classified as elements of health processing categories described mainly in chapters 1, 3, 4, 5 of environmental factors component. So the professional, this health professional himself is a part of the system. So we are not only explaining or trying to make sense of reality, but we are part of reality. We cannot assume a separate position from the system we are evaluating, but we are part of it. Now we come to the teaching model. And okay, for assuming this paradigm shift ICF is proposing, we have to have a new epistemology and also another teaching model. And for this topic, I drove my ideas basically from Edgar Morin and Michael Polanyi. And I propose some principles and some practices to drive this conception of a new model of education for the new model of health brought by ICF. So briefly discussing these principles, complexity, I have already talked about it a little bit, is this focus in the interactions. We cannot have the whole without the parts, and we cannot have the part without the whole. This is the complexity. The transdisciplinarity. Well, for assuming a transdisciplinary position, we must have collaborative posture. We have to have all these stakeholders together in the same table with an accessible language, everyone with equal voice. We should not view ourselves as the holder of specialized knowledge or superior knowledge. We have to give value to the views of all the other disciplines, and not the disciplines only, but even lay people, patients, and people from other disciplines as well. So transdisciplinarity is not the end of disciplines, but is a way of organizing the knowledge as it goes through the boundaries of disciplines. It transpasses the boundaries of discipline. We have also have to assume a reflexive posture, as thinking about the way we think, questioning every time paradigms, and seeing ourselves not as an authority in some issue, but seeing ourselves as part of a system or of a team which is building the knowledge. And this topic is also related to the ethics, which deals with giving the other human beings the value and the dignity they have as human beings. And some practices to put this thing into practice. We have to have awareness and critical appraisal of underlying epistemologies of science and of oneself in all academic discussions and activities. So every activity in the medical program should always bring this reflection, this awareness of what are the underlying epistemologies that this method, this theory is dealing with, and what are the tacit knowledge that we ourselves have assumed to deal with the situations. And next one is real problems in real situations based education. Well, if we need to deal with complexity, and if we have to change the way people see, think, and describe reality, we have to have these people immersed in the complexity of reality. So reality itself is a very complex phenomenon. So we take the human being, for example, all the planetary issues, climate change, many things. They are really complex phenomena. And when we deal with these real problems in the real situation, they happen. We can we can challenge ourselves and our students to change the way we think. And also interprofessional education and collaborative practice, it is absolutely necessary for assessing the complexity of reality we're dealing with. And also transdisciplinarity is impossible without this dynamic of multi-professional and practicing in a collaborative way. And as many of these aspects we are dealing with, many of these these underlying epistemologies are not explicit to our knowledge, explicit knowledge, they are tacit knowledge. So we have to, we learn such things not in a systematic and very, we cannot learn many things in books. We have to go through some tutoring process, learning with this tacit knowledge with more experienced professionals. So this is important from this changing of the mentality. So how can we make sense of these three models, these three dimensions we have to deal with for medical education? How can these three things be united in a coherent way? Well, only if we look for the only focus we have, a unique focus in the individual within its context, which is the person. And I think this is what drives, what pushes us for the science paradigm shift, for the teaching model shifts, and for the health model shift. When we look for the complexity, for the reality of persons in their context, and we see ourselves as person in our context and sharing the humanity with our patients, with other colleagues, sharing the same big environment, the same planet Earth. So we see everything as part of the same system, the very huge, complex system. And this, I think, will push ourselves to these changes. Finishing with a citation from Michael Proust: "The only true voyage of discovery would be not to visit strange lands, but to possess other eyes. I'd like to acknowledge the importance of my wife first. She first introduced me to the ideas of Professor Vasconcelos and complex thinking. Eduardo, he was fundamental for my introducing me ICF, and my teacher at the Masters Universidade Federal of Minas Gerais, Daniela Vaz. References, thank you. Finished.
Well, thank you so much, Pedro, for such a nice, elaborative presentation. And you really elaborated on the empathy part of this thing, like the physician needs to have empathy, and then it encompasses the whole set of, the thoughts. So I would, so I would invite any questions if the participants have any questions.
Yes, I have one. Laurie, Valeria,
Okay.
Pedro, I remember the first time you heard about ICF. You were born in that
Yes.
time. How
My
beautiful.
birth in ICF.
How beautiful to see you today. Congratulations. I have no comments. I'm very happy to see you here.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Thanks.
You were the one who gave birth to this thing. Você foi minha parteira.
Actually, I have a question.
Yes.
Which will be your next step by yourself?
Well, I personally, I intend to, after finishing this master's, and by the way, this master's is on the comprehensions, the perspectives of ICF experts on ICF and ICF concepts, and I will I'll put in good time, I will invite all of you for participating in this. But after finishing this master's, I intend to study a little bit more philosophy, and then doctorate, trying to, well, this is much steps further, but for now, this is my intention to elaborate an epistemology and the theoretical background for the biopsychosocial model.
Thank you very much. Gilbert, with your permission, there are some people asking me to translate my question.
Okay.
Eu perguntei qual é o próximo passo que o Pedro pode dar agora nesse momento. Ele falou sobre o mestrado. Eu prefiro que você mesmo, Pedro,
Tá bom.
em português, resumidamente, por favor.
Gente, mestrado que está em andamento, eventualmente vou convidar vocês também, porque é sobre as perspectivas dos experts na CIF aí, sobre a própria CIF, sobre elementos da CIF, sobre ideias da CIF, sobre o modelo, e vai ser muito importante a participação de vocês. O próximo passo vai ser aprofundar os estudos em filosofia, para no doutorado tentar desenvolver uma base epistemológica e teórica para o modelo biopsicossocial.
Very good. Gilbert, You
So,
are the leader. Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So was it Valeria? We can, Lori, if we can allow Valeria first. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pedro, I'm going to ask you in English, translate that into Portuguese, and after you're going to do the same. May we do so? I think it's
Feel free.
easier, huh?
Okay.
Okay, so the very first thing I have to ask you, or I must ask you is, I deal with doctors. We are health professionals and I work with doctors very frequently. And with, I say 99% of them, I might say they don't work with the ICF. They work with a biomedical model, and that's it, okay? They don't deal with that, they don't like with that. If they want to learn about it, okay, so I do want to ask you is the ICF adopted in Brazilian college curriculum? And I don't know if you know how to say Brazilian, but at least at UFMG, where you work or you used to study, or in Belo Horizonte, where you live, do you have an idea? May I translate that into Portuguese first?
Well, do you think it's
Okay.
important, Eduardo?
May I? Ok. Eu falei para ele que eu lido muito com médicos, né? Porque eu sou um profissional de saúde, né? E eu posso dizer que em torno de 99% dos médicos não trabalham com a CIF, não gostam da CIF. Não é que eu não gosto, eu acho que
Nem
se interessam em saber o que seja, né? E, sobretudo, porque eles encaram o modelo biomédico como forma de trabalho, né? Aí eu perguntei para o Pedro se ele sabe, porventura, se a CIF é adotada nas universidades brasileiras, no currículo das universidades brasileiras, dos médicos. É isso que eu quero saber. É a primeira pergunta.
Well,
tem outra.
okay. ICF, I don't think it's adopted in the medical curriculum. I think maybe Eduardo is more knows this a little bit more than me, but perhaps only speech therapists, they have the ICF in the national curriculum guidelines, and medical doctors definitely not. My school, Federal University of Minas Gerais, they absolutely don't speak of ICF, only tangencialmente in geriatrics. They mentioned, but very little.
Okay. Would you like to translate?
Gupret, do you think it's a good idea for translating for Portuguese?
Yeah, you can go ahead. So
okay.
If ever, like, yeah.
Eu não acho que tenha desculpa.
It's because I know that there are some Brazilians here.
Okay.
So I think it's a good idea, please.
Yeah, my question is because of the time. So, eu acho que eu não tenho notícia de escolas de medicina que adotam a CIF. Na minha faculdade, na UFMG, tangenciou assim a CIF em geriatria, uma disciplina que é optativa, nem era parte do currículo básico. E que eu saiba, nas diretrizes curriculares nacionais, somente o curso de fono que tem a CIF incluída lá nas diretrizes.
This you were saying, thinking about the Federal University of Minas Gerais State, right?
Yes.
Okay. Here at Triângulo Mineiro, Federal University of Triângulo Mineiro in Uberaba, the physiotherapy course has it as well. We, from OT, do not have that yet as an optative, as you said. Okay, just one more question. So, how do you think that doctors or undergrad students face the biopsychosocial model in relation to the biomedic model?
Biopsychosocial model is it's a beautiful discourse. they say they are considering those dimensions, but we don't have practices or theories for supporting the use of biopsychosocial model. In the end of the day, we are still biomedical 80–90% of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Valerie, and thank you, Pedro. May I ask Laurie to go ahead with your questions? And I think we have to be mindful of time. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Yes, very interesting. Since this presentation mentioned very strongly this dimensionality, I was very curious with my thoughts as a computer scientist and trying to advance machine learning. And I have explored with health data, both supervised learning and unsupervised learning approaches, so that the first one aims to just mimic human decision making, and the other one is more like exploratory research methods. So I would be very eager to hear your viewpoints when developing artificial intelligence. Myself, for example, what is the preferable actually approach to just learn from the facts that human gives, or even to try to use some kind of exploratory methods which try to figure out without even previous learning something new?
Well, I'm not sure, Laurie, but maybe I have an insight that could help you. While studying for this presentation, I found the ideas of Michael Polanyi very interesting. And he talks about two kinds of knowledge, explicit knowledge and a tacit knowledge. The explicit knowledge is the one we can systematize, we can put into words. And this knowledge, I think, is the knowledge in which machines can deal with. But there is a tacit knowledge, which is a knowledge that is we cannot put into words. And it's for me, the greatest example of this is the human physiognomy. When I look to you, I know you're Laurie, but not necessarily because I analyze each part of your face. Maybe tomorrow I can say the color of your eyes, but if I see you by the streets, I know you are Laurie. And this is tacit knowledge. I cannot tell what are the elements in your physiognomy that tells me that you are Laurie, but somehow I know this. And this is a kind of knowledge that is implicit, that is under the conscious,
subconscious.
Yeah, maybe
subconscious.
This. Mm-hmm. So I don't think, I'm not sure if we can deal with this kind of knowledge with machines. Okay. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Larry, you got happy.
Thank you. And let's discuss more in the future and continue collaboration.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Laurie. And Eleni, your question?
Yes, I'll try to be very quick. Thank you for the presentation, very interesting. I was really interested in the concept you mentioned about intersubjectivity, and you mentioned collaborative posture and being co-participant, the physician, I presume maybe with the patient, like collaboratively working and finding the activity and participation components, exploring these components of ICF. Can you please explain a bit like this concept, what you mean like in practice for a physician, how it can be used? Thank you.
Well, this concept is in the context of the other two, complexity and the instability. We cannot deal with on each of these concepts separately. So when you deal with a situation which is complex, when you deal, for example, a patient who has an issue about his participation, when we try to look at this the situation, we're gonna see many dimensions of it, and many contexts in which this phenomenon happens. So we have the office setting. We have that patient in his family, in his work, and the neighborhood. We have the laws of the country. We have the transportation. We have many dimensions in which that person lives, and that issue he or she is bringing to the office is not. We cannot deal with this from the only perspective of one professional. We have to bring to the table everyone involved in that problem. So maybe we must clearly involve the patient himself, but also his family, maybe a professor for school, maybe a neighbor, maybe of course all the professionals of the of our health service, and other sectors as well. For example, lawyers, social assistants, social workers. So everyone who can relate to that topic, who can be part of that problem, is brought to the table to discuss the problem, and everyone brings his point of view, and the problem is not brought. It's not described. It's not readily described. The description of the problem is a construction by all of these people who are involved in the problem. So we have to identify where the problem is, which are the people involved in this problem, and invite these people to join the description and the elaboration of the answers for that. So you do not assume an objective position as to look from outside to the problem. You see yourself as a participant of that problem, as everyone you invited to discuss. And this another important thing to mention is that the specialized knowledge we have, it cannot be viewed as a superior knowledge, but just another point of view, which will contribute for the understanding of and the description of that situation. So to promote an intersubjectivity experience, we have to be specialized not in diseases, but in creating contexts of autonomy. I think this is the main point.
Thank you.
So I hope that answers your question. And Eduardo, your suggestions, if it needs to be translated, the question as well as a brief answer, or we can move ahead and call Marina Borges. So whatever your suggestions are.
Is there any other questions? If we don't have,
I don't see any raised hands.
okay. Marina sent me her presentation, but Marina, are you there? What do you prefer? Do you prefer that I share your presentation?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can I try?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, hello. My name is Marina Borges. Speaking on behalf of my colleague, Professor Lorena Rosa as well, I would like to present our paper named An Experience Report, Teaching the International Classification of Functioning Disability and Health, ICF, in a preparatory course for a public tender. So in December 2020, the municipal government of Belo Horizonte in Brazil issued a public tender announcement to hire permanent health professionals to integrate the staff, including speech language hearing pathologists. The ICF was listed as one of the items in the content expected from the candidates to the position. In addition to the ICF, we included another 2 articles that address the topic. Given this demand, a group of 9 speech language hearing pathologists specialized in the different fields and with significant teaching experience in higher education made a joint effort and combined their knowledge to offer a preparatory course to candidates in the said public tender. Hence, this paper aimed to describe the experience of teaching class of the ICF to speech language hearing pathologists who were taking the preparatory courses for a public tender. Concerning the methods, the classes were structured in the 3.5-hour modules. They were taught in online synchronous class, and the studies could also watch the recording at the later moment. The studies received support material covering all the content and took a specific mock test on each topic with questionnaire taken from previous exams. In the ICF itself, we approach the item described in the introduction of the classification. We cover the items addressed into the 2 other articles cited on the reference. We discussed the possibility approach in the ICF in the public tender, and the mock test was structured based on the search and analysis of previous public tender in the field of health had between 2010 and 2019. We would like to highlight some results of this paper. We have 2 different classes taking the preparatory courses, totaling 109 students. The ICF classes were taught in modules in April and June. We cover all the content during the little time and previous experience many had with the ICF. For the mock test, we retried 28 previous exams held by cities, government, hospitals, and other government agencies, totalizing 28 questions on the ICF. The students were interested to the content and participate actively in the classes. The public tender was held on July 5th, 25, but the ICF was not approached in any of the questioning, unfortunately. But we have a very positive feedback regarding not only the course in general, but also the specific ICF classes. The following conclusions stand out: that experience was successful because the I students in the preparatory course acquired knowledge of the ICF. The classes raised the speech language hearing therapists owners of the interest in the ICF. We identified a need for teaching the ICF to health professionals who apply for a civil servant position. Moreover, this training should be made available not to only speech language hearing pathologists, but also other health professionals. Regarding to the implications for this paper to education, we would like to point out that the ICF has been approached in a public tender in the field of health since 2010, and it's likely to continue so. We see a need for structured ICF classes for a professional who apply to the public tenders, in which the ICF is listed as a part of containing to be studied. This study had no funding searches and did not require approval for the ethics committee. I appreciate everyone's attention and thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Any questions from the participants? I see Pedro has raised his hand. So Pedro, you can go ahead and ask the question to Marina.
Oh, pardon, this is just an applause.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Do we have Ali and Tasneem in the group? And I would ask, maybe Ali can introduce yourself to the group, and then Tasneem, before we move on to the next. Yeah. Ali, are you there? Ali Saat Al Turki. I can read that name. Ali Al Turki. Yeah, pardon me if ever I pronounced it wrong. Can you just introduce yourself? Come on the screen and just introduce yourself. Okay, and Tasneem. Okay. Just wanted to know, Valeria, the next is yours, ICF teaching skill for OT. Are we going ahead with that, or?
In fact, I have presented in the morning. I don't know if I am supposed to do that again.
No, it's okay, perfectly. Okay, perfect. Okay, so if you all allow me, I will start sharing my screen now.
Yeah, yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Just a second. So it's evening time here in Canada. Very good evening to everyone. I am Dr. Gurpreet from India, and I recently relocated to Canada. My specialty is in as a respirologist, and I had been working with the government up to 2018. So after that, I relocated to Canada, and I met Olaf, and he introduced me to Stephanus, and then I, found this interesting. So MICF is the group which I joined. I have been working as a TB control officer, and I did research, operational research in that. So it was titled Screening of Difficult to Reach Populations in the remote setup. So this was using the mobile medical units. The reason I'm giving this is the importance of grassroots, going to the grassroots for any program. We need to reach out to the unreached and give them some program where, that thing starts. So now this, yeah.
I'm sorry, if you are sharing your screen, we are not seeing.
You're not able to see?
Yeah, no, I am not.
Let me check.
Is there anybody seeing?
Everything's black.
No, we cannot see.
Can you see it?
No, sorry, not yet. Hopefully soon.
below your screen, you have a green button.
I will just go back to that. Just a second. I had mentioned that start screening one. Share screen. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Does it come up now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Well,
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out. Okay. So I was just sharing about my experience. Like I was in the health department earlier, and then basically as a respirologist, my interest towards autism in particular, disability in general and autism in particular is what brings me here. As a person, as a family affected with this thing, the disability. So, you know, the whole context will be revolving around that. This is the Center of Excellence in Mohali, which is coming up. And, you know, this is the start point of all my interest in disability. This is the first of its kind in India, a public sector undertaking for autism. And the concept is this is to be an umbrella center for the district early intervention centers in Punjab. So in Punjab, India, so 7 out of 22 are functioning at the moment, but we don't have, you know, a state institute or an umbrella center as a disability institute guiding all these centers. Autism is quite, you know, bewildering sort of a thing. You get lost in the thoughts when you think about the multi-dimensional aspect of this disability. So that is what, you know, is prompting me to think widely how we should be thinking about it. And this is more from a parent's perspective, more from a affected family. We have been discussing the clinician's perspective, the ICF, how the clinicians have to go about it. But up to the grassroots levels, we need to take this. So ICF is a biopsychosocial model. And yesterday I had also suggested there's some aspect, there was a thought on, you know, in evolving the eco part. So the spiritual thing, as Eduardo had also mentioned, that is one thing, though not everyone is a believer, but yes, they have recently found that, you know, this also plays a role, especially when people had to undergo this COVID injections and all that stuff. So the religious groups were also coming up and, you know, making a difference. So that thing is one area which can be looked into it when we think about the environment. So believers and non-believers, basically. Then ICF's importance, we have heard in previous presentations, as a screening for surveillance, for statistical data, planning, rehabilitation, research, all that. Autism in particular, this is a neurodevelopmental disorder. There is a paucity of data as far as India is concerned. And we find that there are far more cases which are not represented in the statistics or the disability data. And this is a problem which is so complex that it involves all the features which are covered under ICF, the social, communication, behavioral challenges, everything, each and every component has got its contribution for this. And it makes a remarkable change because still now we don't have proper treatments for this. What I can think as a treatment is biopsychosocial model would be a better thing for changing the lives of people. The facts regarding autism, as far as the WHO is concerned, we have the ICD codes, globally 1 in 160 people affected, starting from the childhood, going up to the adulthood. There is a variability that, you know, you can see people, some people can manage to live independently, but some require a lifelong care. You need psychosocial interventions, behavioral interventions, and the WHO is now found that parent skill training programs have a very important role in this. So 1 or 2 pilot projects are being tested in India also. Umeed Center is one of that in Mumbai. They are taking this pilot project for the parent skill training. What we need is a broader action in terms of physical, social, and attitudinal environment of the person to make it more inclusive. These are the risk factors. You know, when we think about the environment, we should also think about during the pregnancy, what the environment the mom is facing. So that is one aspect which I was thinking. The genetics and the environmental part, even when the child is inside the womb, what is the environment? What's the internal environment he's being subjected to? We have been talking about the external environment. The resolution as per the WHO We need comprehensive and coordinated efforts for management of autism spectrum disorder. Then screening and surveillance. So this is what I am interested in. Right now, I may mention this, that we are just beginning to catch up with the ICF in India. Dr. Preeti Arun gave her presentation yesterday. Dr. Anjan spoke today. We just got together, and we're just all grouping together now, whosoever is doing individually. But Chandigarh is very advanced as far as it's one of the well-known cities on the map also. But even surprisingly, this is the only center, Medical College Chandigarh, Dr. Preeti Arun's center, which is doing ICF, which is using ICF. We have a premier institute, PGI, which is the premier institute of North. It's the only institute in the country, second to AIMS, which is dealing with the neurodevelopmental disorders and having DM of super specialization neurology for neurodevelopmental disorders. But even there, we are not using ICF. So recently, I undertook this task of getting collaborations with the MICF team and the PGI. They have a MOU signed, and we would be taking up this as well, scaling ICF with the help of PGI. So idea is to develop screening and surveillance tools which can be used by the grassroots workers, the ASHA workers who are there at the field levels. Because from this, as you can see in this slide, the screening tools which are being used at present are basically, for the how to based on the disease criteria of AST, the DSM-5 criteria, how to make a diagnosis, like how to screen cases for AST. But we don't have that ICF model for screening, which I feel is more important for neurodevelopmental cases, because we need to monitor, the progress of the child whenever the rehabilitation measures are employed. So how the child is progressing. Based on those ICF categories, it will be very useful if we could give the ASHA workers a tool to use. So I had a talk with Dr. Preeti Arun also, and maybe we can have a simple language which can be understood, because the ASHA workers are at the grassroots levels. They are just qualified up to 10th standard. So how they can use these categories, we have to make language simple, and that is something which would require a lot of inputs. These are the studies here. Dr. Preeti Arun did a screening for autism in Chandigarh. So that is known as CASI instrument. Then the prevalence of autism in India, they say the study was done by Dr. Arora in 2018. And he found in his studies that out of 100 cases, there's one case for autism in the country. And there is 1 out of every 8 child in India is suffering from autism and neurodevelopmental disorder. So at least one of this is there. And this figure, which we usually rely on the statistics. So the statistics says whatever the statistic figures is there, it's 10 times more than what has been reflected. So we would require to, get these figures correctly reflected in statistics, and that again has to come from, the grassroots levels. If we can have ICF based data, so that can, be incorporated in the maybe in the census or national sample surveys, which they do on disabilities. So this is just the medical model, which is based on DSM-5. And it, of course, has social communication and restricted behavior, which are the characteristics. These are the complexities of problems. ASD has got so many issues which need to be tackled. And again, I see ICF coming out to the rescue of a child suffering from autism. All these comorbidities, we had talked about even the giftedness in autism in one of the presentations. So not just the negative aspect, we need to highlight the positive aspect also, because the families would need something positive to look forward to. The next step after diagnosis, basically, it's not of treatment. It's more of, making a child capable of to do better functioning. So all these services are required: hearing, speech, language. Then you need OTs, all this stuff. Disability defined so many times in all the previous presentations, basically the activity restrictions and in context of the society. ICF, the role model which we should be following. The F words adaptation of ICF, Peter Rosenbaum's this thing concept for CP child and ASD child. The stress based on the ICF model is on fitness, function, friends, family, and fun. So these are very, very simplified form of things which the families can easily work upon. Like they can be given this data. They can be asked to put in their inputs regarding what is their view of fitness, their view of functioning, the child's view of friends, family, fun. All this, just tailor making as per the family. This thing, it makes so easy for the other person also to interpret. So I was thinking about this to get this, adopted. And we have, these F words translated in Hindi. So Joe Chopra, who's from the Latika Rai Foundation in Dehradun, they have translated the F words into Hindi. We are talking about, translating ICF into Hindi. So a start has been made with use of these the F words. These are, of course, the core sets. Anjan is working on this thing. So we are planning to have a study for autism core sets validation in India, and we are building the collaboration with regard to that. All the background related to the development of this, the various aspects will be, and then WHO DAS 2.0 was also discussed as a reliable, valid tool, which is meaningful, which assesses the level of functioning and can be used in surveys and clinical research, and is very, it can generate information on health needs and effectiveness of interventions. Then a brief about, because we need to know the background on how the acts come, the legislation comes up. So basis was the CRPD, United Nations 2006, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. And it's nothing new, it just seeks to apply the existing human rights in the context of disability. And this is first legally binding international human rights convention to specifically address the human rights of persons with disability. The other ones is in the Asia Pacific, we have the Incheon strategy and of course the SDG goals. All these form the basis of the Rights of Persons with Disability Act, which the Government of India has signed and made a notification in December 2016. So all rights are available to persons with disability as per the Constitution. And the important acts which are there is Mental Health Care Act, the Rehabilitation Council of India Act. The National Trust is particularly the one which is looking for the persons with autism. And of course, RPWD in 2016. The human rights, as I already mentioned, there is stigma. The problems are the same, but they'll have some specific needs. They are vulnerable because of the behavior risk and physical inactivity and dietary preferences. So all these, the vulnerability and other points can be elicited through the ICF. They require accessible health services. And especially we have seen during the humanitarian emergencies, there was an instance like, the ethical dilemma the doctors are facing whenever a COVID patient comes. So whom should you prioritize the healthcare to? So this is the most vulnerable section of the population. And I would say that, the rights still are not fully restored when you think about the concept of medical rationing as comes up during these, calamities. Okay, so the individual, family, social, and economic impact We know for any disability, this holds good, that the capacity of the individual is affected, social, employment, independent living, economic, everything. Okay, then something about the disability statistics. ICF is the basis for the disability statistics also. And the government of India is, relying on these things like the Washington Group on Disability Statistics. This has been quoted in whatever the disability ideas which come up. So that the basis of Washington Group on Disability Statistics is again from ICF. That forms the basis. So all the statistical data comes from there. We have the census, which is a decennial repetition. And in between the census, for collection of data, we do the national sample surveys. And there are usually two surveys. The last one was done in December 2018. And the reason I'm mentioning this survey is when we look at this particular form, the survey form, they have mentioned about the disabilities. I was looking in particular for autism, and I did not get anything in particular because these forms are based on that RPWD Act. So all the disabilities are listed here. We have the hearing, visual, locomotor, mental illness, mental retardation, and other disabilities. So as an exercise, I just asked someone, asked the few specialists. So if this form comes to you, because this form is usually, handled by a layman, even the doctors were not able to say properly where would they categorize autism. It is not mentioned in mental retardation. It is not in mental illness. It is not mentioned here in others. Of course, they have mentioned in the Act that mental retardation, intellectual disability, further they have the learning disabilities and ASD in mental retardation, but ASD is not mentioned in this form. And this is, you can realize the importance that if we are not incorporating ASD here, how are we actually giving the figures? And how are we going to plan the rehabilitation services? So then I just saw the form, it was mentioned in others. In others, you have the chronic neurological conditions, but again, they have not mentioned here ASD. And for that, they have specifically mentioned you need to have a disability certificate. And the problem again goes back to square one, that not many disability certificates are coming up because people don't know how to diagnose ASD, and they are referring the cases for different assessments. All the government policies get based on the data. That is the importance of data. And if the data is not reflecting the thing properly, then it is underestimation. The studies have also revealed that 10 times these neurodevelopmental disabilities are present, but they are not getting the due importance. So rehabilitation planning, everything, all the bases start from the data. Of course, the rehabilitation part in the functional, the RCI, Rehabilitation Council of India, has mentioned about doing a functional assessment based on the functioning concept. So that is where we hope that something comes up, the incorporation of ICF in all this planning. And rest all is about the rehabilitation. This is what the schemes are available, but to avail these schemes, again, you need to have, the correct reflection of the problem. And for that, again, the data. Then a word about empowering the parents. Of course, the parents need to be involved. We are thinking about ICF, trying to get the parents also get to know something about ICF so that they can also feel empowered, that they can contribute, they can identify the areas of focus. That's about it. And lastly, as I mentioned, what is needed now is, so the summary, that about 12% autism and neurodevelopmental disorders in India, that means 1 in 8 child is suffering. And this is 10 times what the figures are showing. We need ICF for assessment at individual and community levels. We need these centers, early intervention centers. We need to build awareness, build collaborations also for ICF. So CDC Kolkata, Dr. Anjan is undertaking this study. We have Regional Institute of Mental Health in North India. Dr. Preeti Arun will be there, and PGI has signed the MOU with MICF. So we would be looking forward to all the collaborations in future, trainings of the staff, active involvement of the parents in participation, and proper data collection at the district and state levels. So this is Stephen Hawking, and I'm sure everyone here knows about him. He says, my advice to other disabled people would be concentrate on the things your disability doesn't prevent you doing well, and don't regret the things it interferes with. Don't be disabled in spirit as well as physically. So just, be positive. And if through ICF, we can send this message, it makes a difference to the parents, especially for autism. I would say, like, this is my personal experience, the whole outlook changed when I was asked to, focus on these F words based on the ICF and the amount of positivity it generates. Forget about the negativities, which we give through the medical diagnosis. Okay, these are the problems. He needs a speech therapist, he needs a behavior therapist and all that stuff. Now focus on the positivity. This will help the parents as well. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I'm ready to take your questions, though. Yeah.
Thank you, Rupert. I can't see for now in chat any questions, but the word is open.
Yeah, Pedro has raised
Pedro.
his hand.
Yes. You can go ahead, Pedro.
Or he's giving
just
wave.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Great work. Thank you,
I got used to this now. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we can, Eduardo, I would like take your help now, because I have the programs with me just as the speakers, but it's now open for the panel discussion, I suppose, or maybe the summary.
Rupert, I think we could take a little break. What do you think about?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
We should take a little break for how long? Like 10 minutes?
10 minutes, okay.
Perfect.
And then we'll be back with Stenifer and Mauro Felix. Okay?
Right. Okay. We meet after 10 minutes. Thank you.
10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 minutes are gone. Gurpreet, I can't hear you.
Yeah, oh, that was my son. I just forgot to mute myself. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, our next presentation is from Mauro Felix. He is in the room. I think he's ready. Mauro, be welcome. You can share your screen if you want to, and we are yours. Thanks so much.
Okay. It's a pleasure to meet even virtually friends from around the world. So my presentation, you can see, Eduardo. You can see my presentation.
Hello, yes, I can see.
Okay.
You can see. Go on.
So my name is Mauro Felix. I and my colleague Guilherme Shmokomaki, I will present our theoretical essay, Clinical Guidelines for Primary Healthcare, proposal for a model based on functional and chronic conditions care model. So our background is that usually the organization of care in care lines in Brazil are based in biomedical model. For example, the 56 care lines in Brazil is exclusively in biomedical models. So this bring to us necessity. This bring to us, how can I say, the necessity to reorganize our view of this part. For example, start to a scientific view in clinical guidelines, bring the person to the center of care, and the ICF make this in his model and bring integrality and propose a classification strategy. After that, we will need a stratification strategy because the ICF is only a classification, only is not it's only a classification. And for this strategy of stratification, we propose the model of tension of chronic conditions that looks the health needs of the population and stratification subpopulations. This will organize the health actions in primary health care and coordinator of care in the rest of the healthcare networks. So our purpose is to organize care basic in clinical guidelines to classify and stratify the health conditions, provide to the organization of care and functioning in healthcare networks perspective. As a method, we propose 3 steps. The first, a clinical guidelines based in a systematic review, and I bring here the 8 parts of a systematic review. This will give to us instruments for each component of the ICF. This is very, very important. For example, when we look the environment factors in Brazil, and we will propose, for example, a walk or jogging on the street, we have a lot of barriers. For example, we have a street with irregular cobblestone, and this is impossible to walk, to make a jogging or something like that. And after that, we will evaluate the functioning of the population in the territory to classify the function of the people. We say classifying, we are looking the best functioning, for example, in this continuum between function and incapacity to, for example, the best performance all participants without restriction, and so else what you are what you giving a bad capacity. And indeed, after that, we will stratify this subpopulation based in a model of attention and chronic health to identify health needs in the population. This model of attention of chronic health is based in Eugenio Vilaça Mendes, a Brazilian author, who summarized three important ways of health. The first is the Kaiser's pyramid. The second is the model of chronic attention. And the third is the social determinants of health. The Kaiser pyramid, we look how potential is this instrument, this view of look at health. For example, when you look the level 3, here in South Brazil, in my district, when we look at the population with COVID-19, we have 4% of the people with highly complex condition who need a unit of intensive therapy, right? And we looked also in this line, what we can say, what we can, how can I say as supported healthcare, that is below this line, and in the other side, what need more professional care, right? When the person lost her autonomy. The social determinant of health start in the person with her condition and factors. After that, the next step is individual lifestyle and factors and social community networks, and so until the more general factors as social, economic, cultural, and environment conditions. Yes, this is very, everyone needs to know this. And the chronic care model is also a very good system to look how the health system and how the community work together to clinical and functional results. And then we have the model of attention and chronic conditions. For example, in the first level, we have the population without problems of health. So we will make action promotion. In the second level, we have population with risk factor, but without a health problem. That is only behavior and lifestyles condition. And we look the personal social determinants of health. And we will work with prevention actions, right? The level 3, we have chronic conditions without or without biopsychological social factors, and we have signs of illness in this case, right? Maybe we will need some medication, some drugs to control, for example, the blood pressure, right? And we have individual social determinants and conditions or biopsychological factors. The first 3 levels is exclusively from the primary healthcare. Bibiana, please turn your microphone off. Thank you. The level 4, we have subpopulation with complex conditions. So this is a very difficult situation to control. And in the level 5, we have a very, very complex condition, and we need case management. The level 4 and 5, we have an interaction between the primary and the secondary healthcare, right? And we make a plan together to take care of the health of the people. As a result, we hope we will find 3 steps. The first, enable to identify the relevant instruments to assess each component of the ICF. The second, we will use the classification, the ICF, to classify the functioning of the people in a territory from the better functioning to the disability. And the third step, we stratify the subpopulation according to the mode of adaptation of chronic conditions. They will give us the third step. This will give us what action we have to do to each person in the territory. As a conclusion, we follow the logic of the assessment of assessment, classification, and stratification as a very potential way to think healthcare in primary healthcare, because we have personal-centered care, generation more resulted care, integration healthcare levels based in functionally, not only in illness. And we have the possibility of make better line cares based in functionally, because in Brazil, the line cares are based in biomodels, biomodel. And implication, we bring scientificity for all of these. So we don't have any fund of sources, and we don't submit to a committee because this is a theoretical design. And I finish here my short speech. I hope you appreciate that, and I'm available for any question.
Mauro, thanks a lot for your presentation. I have one hand, maybe Pedro?
Yes, now I do have a hand.
Hello, Pedro.
Hello, Mauro. Great to see your work. I've been working in this attention model of chronic care, model of chronic, I forgot that. Sorry.
Care.
Yes. I studied Vilasa's book in
Mauro,
Portuguese.
I can see ICF behind you.
Ah, beautiful.
Yes.
Mauro, I've been working, trying to operationalize this model in for the last 2 years in primary care facility. I've been working since until last month. I just moved for another job, but I'm very, very interested in collaborating with you in this work. I tried to develop this classification system for stratification populational risk. And what we usually have is classifications for specific conditions. We have a classification and stratification of risk for hypertension, for diabetes, but we have not certain stratification assessment for the whole population, which is needed for this model to work. And I was working, trying to develop this thing, and I would really, really like to share with you and see what you've done so far.
Oh, that's great. I would like to talk with you, and then we can talk in Portuguese. So I think the model of attention of chronic conditions bring to us something that how can I say, the health surveillance don't bring. This is a stratification. This patient is for primary health care or the secondary, for example. Okay, for when you look illness, this is relatively easy to see because we usually use the biomedical model, right? And when you look functioning, you don't have anything about this. And the idea is propose something like this in a clinical guidelines, right? To think something, to think difference, so to organize this, because for us, I am a physical therapist, right? And for us, it's very difficult to look a patient, right? And see after a stroke, for example, and say, okay, this patient can make rehabilitation in primary healthcare, or really they need a specific clinic in secondary healthcare, right? This is very difficult to us. And I think when we look functioning, we have more possibility to organize this, to stratify this and say, okay, this will make this action or those action.
Yes, perfect. And also in the public health dimension, we can, when we have the whole population stratified, we just can see what kind of resources we have to employ in the city, in the setting. So depending on the profile of the population they have, it's an excellent model.
Yes, I think so.
Great job. Let's try to work together.
Oh.
Mauro,
Basta,
congratulations.
basta me chamar.
Bora.
We have Laurie.
Thank you for nice, interesting thoughts. As a computer scientist, and since I'm interested in machine learning, it would be very interesting to hear what are your opinions about how much time measurements we need for making reliable diagnosis. For example, making classification for certain person today reflects the current situation, but sometimes you need many measurement points to get more understanding about the problem. So I was curious, perhaps myself also trying to advance some modeling in this time series of using scales and classifications. So what would be your suggestions? How much we need time series checkpoints?
Oh, I don't have an answer to your question, my friends, Laurie. But I think when you stratify, right, we have more, it's more available to identify what really the person needs, what really the health condition, what really the intervention, what they need, right? But I don't have an answer on how many time we need for this. But I think that when you think data, we look better the territory and the whole health condition from the persons, right? And without data, we don't have information, we don't have anything, and we don't make science.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for a comment. I would be really happy to collaborate in this domain, researching this time series analysis also.
Thank you.
Pedro, do I have your hand again?
Yes, just a comment on this question by Laurie, maybe to help a little bit more. It's true, we don't have some universal model or systematics for, well, the time lapse between the evaluations. We have some specific guidelines for specific diseases that try to stratify or classify the person's condition, and then suggest some period of time for the re-evaluation, reassessment. And this is a suggestion by these guidelines. And we always need to look at the actual situation of that single person. And what is model of tension of chronic conditions is proposing, while classifying the whole population, we can maybe have these guidelines applied to all population, not only for specific diseases, and maybe have a notion of how many times we need to assess that population during the years. So this is something we have to develop.
Okay, so I have no hands for now. Next year, we must have a face-to-face meeting. And I'd like to hear from Rupert or Gonda or anybody else if you have an idea of which country can hold our next meeting. Would you like to comment something about?
Eduardo, may I? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are in the process of, developing this. Maybe I'll get back to you after talking to Anjan and Preeti and the PGI people. So in case, the things come up, because that study for sure Anjan is taking up, but, organizing a conference would be like when we have the whole team getting involved. So PGI people, they have submitted their proposal for the MICF as well. And I think if that gets, they get the grant for it, maybe they will be able to, that would be a good opportunity for them also to spread this message. So I'll get back to you, whatever the feedback is from all these three. Yeah.
Oh, it will be amazing if we have MICF and ICF education join. Very good.
Definitely.
Okay, I will share my screen and show to you some documents that I have shared this afternoon. The first one is an Excel to share the contact emails I have sent to everybody. And if you want to share your email with all of us, you just have to type. Oh, there are some guys that have typed. I can't find my name here. Now you do that. Okay. If you do so, we can separate you in 2 or 3 little rooms, and then you can fill the blanks. In 15 minutes, we get again to our room. Okay, may I do that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So done.
government working. Government is working at the central level, at the state levels, and you have the primary health centers. Do you have the subsidiary health centers? The
Hey guys,
yeah,
so,
hi Eduardo, hi.
Are you okay?
Yeah, we all fine.
Okay.
So Eduardo, I'll just say we were discussing on my question was to Mauro regarding the primary healthcare setup and the ICF introduction there. How about taking it to the grassroots levels? That was one thing. And then suppose this structure gets dismantled, because what is happening in most of the governments in different countries is privatization is taking place. So a very structured thing like primary healthcare, and all this level, which is very organized, may not be there in times to come. How do we go about it then? Suppose we do. So
not
these are
only Brazil.
Yeah.
Not only Brazil. Okay, I will leave you and you can go on. There is 2 documents that I have shared with you and we are supposed to work on them. If you want to, you can work today or you can work in the next days because it's shared. Okay. All right.
So are we writing together now some?
Yes.
It will be great.
That's it. Oi, Roberta, vou colocar você em um grupo. Já.
He said, okay, one of my
Só
students
tem
said,
falador de português.
Eduardo is in the house.
Oh, thanks, God.
Só tem falador de português aqui?
Vamos lá.
Ai, que alívio.
Não, eu acho que Bibiana e Marjorie falam inglês, não?
Yeah, and
Não,
there
mas
is
nessa sala só tem quem fala português. Eu compartilhei com vocês 2 arquivos por e-mail. O primeiro é só o dos...
Marjorie não português.
Marjorie sim português.
Okay, just one point. Desculpe, não sei por que eu estou falando inglês. Um dos meus alunos, por exemplo, falou que se perdeu nessas salas e voltou para a sala inicial. Eu caí nessa sala porque eu apertei um join, vim para cá e não consigo voltar para outra sala porque não existe outra sala. Eu estou perdida.
Não, olha só, eu mandei para vocês por e-mail 2 arquivos, estão compartilhados. Um é para, se você quiser... Tá me ouvindo bem, Valéria? Tá.
Sim.
Um é uma planilha. Se você quiser compartilhar o seu contato, você compartilha o seu e-mail. Se não, não. Eu não quis compartilhar os e-mails de todos com todos, porque eu não sei se todos podem disponibilizar. Então, aqueles que quiserem, basta colocar o e-mail do lado do nome. Esse é um arquivo.
E manda de volta para você?
Não precisa mandar, é só tá compartilhado o arquivo. É só você colocar lá, você vai permanecer com a
Tá. Ok.
E o outro é um documento final do simpósio. E esse documento final que está lá é o do ano passado, que nós precisamos atualizar para ser o desse ano. Ele chama Consensus Statement. Tá bom?
Okay.
Esse trabalho pode começar hoje, mas ele não precisa terminar hoje, porque os arquivos permanecem compartilhados com vocês. Então, nos próximos dias, vocês podem continuar mexendo neles, nos 2, tá bom? É isso.
Well, wait. Peraí. Ah, não, acabei de ver o conceito, porque você mandou em 2 diferentes.
2 diferentes.
Você mandou primeiro sharing whatever e depois o consensus statement. Ok. That's it?
Later, alligator.
Fechou, então? Podemos ir.
Hey there. Is everything okay here? Nobody talking? Denise, Ali? Anybody can hear me?
I am sorry, but my baby is here with me. Eu não estou conseguindo. Eles não estão saindo do meu colo.
Tudo bem.
Então eu não sei.
Okay, okay.
I'm
Hi,
sorry.
Ali. Ali and Jana. Sorry, I have sent to you all 2 emails sharing 2 different documents that you can edit them. The first one, if you want to, you can put your email. You can type your email. If you want to share your email with all of the participants. That's it. That's the first one. And the second one is the consensus statement. What you see there is the consensus statement from the last year. Today, we are supposed to actualize it, okay? But we don't have to finish it today because it will be shared with you during the next days. And you can edit during the week if you want to. Okay? Bye-bye. Olá, vejo apenas falantes de português aqui, suponho. Eu compartilhei com vocês 2 e-mails. Um contém uma planilha e o outro contém um arquivo texto. No primeiro, se você quiser, você pode digitar o seu e-mail. Se você fizer isso, você está compartilhando o seu contato com todos os participantes do simpósio. Se você quiser isso, basta digitar o seu e-mail, o seu endereço de e-mail nesse primeiro arquivo. O segundo é um consenso. O que você vê lá é o consenso do simpósio do ano passado, e o que nós temos que fazer agora é atualizar esse texto. Não precisamos terminar hoje. Nós podemos continuar durante os próximos dias, ficará disponível por 1 semana, tá bom? Eu vou entrar no outro grupo aí, qualquer dúvida, estou à disposição já já. Só falando de português.
Grande, Edu. Recording in progress. Sim.
É rápido, eu estou passando em grupo por grupo, demorei porque são muitos. Só para saber se vocês estão conseguindo acessar, são 2 arquivos. Um arquivo tem os nomes de vocês e aquele que quiser compartilhar o seu e-mail, basta digitar o endereço do e-mail. Muitos me pediram os contatos de todos, mas eu fiquei receoso de passar os contatos de todos para todos, porque eu não sei se todos permitem, se todos querem que eu faça isso. Então, eu compartilhei aquele arquivo. Aquele que quiser, basta digitar o e-mail que o arquivo está compartilhado e todos vão ter acesso. O segundo é o Consensus Statement. Esse arquivo que está lá é o que nós escrevemos no ano passado, no simpósio do ano passado. O que nós precisamos agora é atualizá-lo. Não precisa terminar hoje. Não precisa terminar hoje. Mas é bom começar hoje, vai ficar disponível por 1 semana e nós podemos editá-lo para que a gente tenha esse consenso final aí do nosso simpósio, tá bom?
Edu, a gente estava conversando aqui, eu acho que seria muito bom se a gente tivesse os slides da Cássia e a gravação do Uston, porque eles fizeram comentários importantes sobre, assim, sobre próximos passos, né, com a CIF, né?
Eu gravei, né? Eu perdi um pedacinho da apresentação do André, da Itália, porque eu tive um
Sim.
problema com os computadores aqui. Enquanto um estava baixando a gravação da manhã, eu fui para outro, só que aí o som meu não funcionou aqui, aí eu tive que voltar e acabei perdendo um pedaço da apresentação dele.
Eu vi.
Mas o restante eu gravei. Então,
Legal.
deveremos ter tudo, só que eu vou disponibilizar para o ICF Education e vou ver o que eles me orientam a fazer com esses vídeos. Tá? Mas eu creio que não vai haver nenhuma dificuldade em...
Não, a questão é assim, se a gente tivesse acesso a isso por agora, para ajudar na elaboração do negócio, entendeu?
Ah, certo. Bom, agora a gente tem que, na verdade, desligar. Não, foi pela manhã, né? Eu acho que eu já tenho a gravação, então. Eu posso ver se ela já está disponível aqui, se já baixou no meu computador e a gente compartilha no WeTransfer.
Uhum. A gente vê o do Houston e da Cássia, principalmente. Acho que foram eles que falaram mais sobre próximos passos com a CIF, assim, mais explicitamente, né?
Mas a Cássia falou ontem, né?
Falou ontem. Eu não sei se a Matilde também falou, a gente estava tentando lembrar aqui.
Sim, na abertura ela falou alguma coisa assim.
De próximos passos, né?
Ela falou mais do passado, né? Deu tchau para
eu acho que foi.
Mas falou alguma coisa. Bom, eu vou dar uma voltinha pelos outros grupos, tá bom?
Beleza.
Então, já. Roberta, você está aí? Me ouve? Fernanda. Evandro, você gostaria de falar alguma coisa? Se você falou alguma coisa, eu não ouvi.
Agir sobre aquilo no ambiente natural. O Eduardo voltou.
Oi, é só para saber como é que vocês estão. Né?
Eu só comentei uma coisa com os meninos, com as meninas, são todas meninas. Eu não vou poder ficar muito tempo, sabe, Eduardo? Porque amanhã eu tenho que levantar de madrugada para começar a dar aula. Então, as meninas até já estão dando umas dicas aqui de coisas muito legais, mas eu não vou poder ficar muito tempo, não, tá?
Galera, agradeço a sua participação, entendo, continua compartilhado, você não precisa finalizar nada hoje, vão ser 7 dias, vou mandar a instrução por e-mail, tá? Para vocês continuarem lá, que a gente só precisa ter um documento final com base naquele do ano passado. E você compartilha seu e-mail se você quiser no outro arquivo.
Você faria essa gentileza? Vocês me perdoem, gente, porque eu realmente não vou ter condições. Eu tenho que descansar um pouco para levantar amanhã com as galinhas.
Imagina, Valéria, okay? Fica à vontade, fica à vontade. Você participou bastante ativamente aí do congresso, deve ter te ficado exausta, né? Vai descansar, agora depois você contribui no arquivo compartilhado, não tem problema.
E tem uma coisa, que as meninas estavam falando agora sobre uma coisa que eu sempre tive dúvida, né, Eduardo? E que eu não quero deixar de ouvir. Capacidade de desempenho.
Você viu que todo mundo tem, né? Todo mundo, isso mesmo, o mundo tem.
Então,
e o pior é, eu não me lembro quem falou.
É a Bibiana.
Falar
a Bibiana que
eu fui apresentei.
Não. Não, foi uma outra que foi colocar, mas em inglês, Bibiana, eu me lembro bem, que eu coloquei o exemplo do cara que estava andando com o coto no chão e que falou que depois, na hora que ele ia encontrar com a namorada, ele colocava a prótese, né? Aí ela virou e falou assim, mas aí você tem que colocar outros 4 qualificadores. Eu falei, mais?
Sim, são 4.
Mas
opcionalmente,
assim, isso são os anexos que falam, é o anexo 2.
Opcionalmente.
Opcionalmente, porque na verdade são 2, desempenho e capacidade, né?
Então, mas para você entender, para você entender mesmo, você precisaria colocar os 4. Eu acho assim, inclusive para você justificar a compra da prótese para ele, você tem que usar os 4. Porque assim, a questão é o que ele faz com a prótese, sem a prótese, né? Em um ambiente neutro e em um ambiente de vida real, né?
Então tá. Era isso agora que você ia falar. O que é tido como ambiente neutro? Porque para mim, o que o desempenho seria o que o indivíduo faz no ambiente adaptado, com o auxílio de terceiros ou de tecnologia assistiva. E a capacidade seria aquilo que era inerente a ele, que ele conseguiria fazer por si próprio, sem auxílio de tecnologia assistiva, sem auxílio de terceiros, etc. Era assim que eu entendia uma e outra.
Então, quando você fala em 4 qualificadores, você tem, então, primeiro o desempenho, que é o que a pessoa faz na vida dela, o que de fato acontece no dia a dia. Esse é o primeiro desempenho. Depois você vai ter a capacidade, que é na clínica.
Gente,
mas daí tem a
grupo,
tecnologia assistiva.
Tá ótimo para vocês aí. Eu preciso ir nos outros grupos. Eu estou rodando, tá bom?
Tchau, tchau.
Tá bom.
Beijo.
Greta Thunberg includes she make things happens, so we do too. We have to unite. We have to be strong, be together to make things happen. So what we do here is write this. We have to disseminate more to everybody. I was thinking when Mauro speaking that we have to include ICF in all the schools, in universities, just to make things be just a little know about, more recognized. So I don't know if I'm speaking well, but I'm trying. So I guess that's more or less this way.
Yeah, this was really great, great wordings. If I may say something from my side, I would like to see also that we could share more our intellectual capacity, and so that, for example, the empowerment of the weak people, the people who suffer or need help, they get more power of their lives. For example, here in Finland, we have a quite long history and try to pioneer in this patient law, so that it's like guaranteed that the patient decides herself how he will get the care in the final moments. It's not like just like being object of the system, but unfortunately, I think still today the challenge is that how to implement it. And I think ICF is very crucial tool to enable this communication. And for example, I myself, I'm very interested. Hopefully, I could collaborate with you in this area of how to perhaps broaden the classification adoption with some artificial intelligence enabled systems which help in some unclear cases, so that it's not required always to fill, for example, the forms so exactly, and still we can like predict something. So something in this domain might be what I promise to advance on my side. And also something outcome from this discussion is also that we should perhaps not fear to be sharing all the data and results very openly, because the commercial companies are already anyway doing things in secrecy. And if we want to prevent that the health comes just like our business, it's very important that we, at least in academic perspective, try to promote this openness as much as possible.
Great. Eduardo, I'll just sum up what we had, the discussion was about. I mean, the points or the recommendations which we had. So Mauro had mentioned, and please just add on if ever I'm missing any point. So Mauro had laid stress on, the technology coming to the rescue of the community, right? That should be there. And the problem is that we are using ICD more, and then ICF, rather ICF is negligible. So we need to, think how we can get this ICF into the next generation. That is one thing. My suggestion, so I had not given the input, so I'll just keep adding here, and then we can make a final conclusion. My inputs for this would be that
mais coisa esse ano.
Oi, desculpa entrar de novo aí, eu estou dando volta pelas salas, tá bom?
Oi,
Vocês estão com acesso
podemos
lá.
te contar o que a gente andou pensando?
Pode, vocês acessaram os dois arquivos, né? Tá tranquilo.
Sim.
Ah, tá bom, isso é o que mais importa. Pode falar.
Então, a gente pensou em 3 grandes áreas para a gente discutir, elaborar aí os statements.
Uhum.
O primeiro são a respeito do conhecimento da CIF.
Uhum.
O segundo é a aplicabilidade da CIF. E o terceiro, contextos de uso da CIF. Então, sob o tema de conhecimento da CIF, a gente colocou que a importância de facilitar a mudança de paradigma, a inclusão da CIF nas matrizes curriculares, como a gente já discutiu no passado, o ensino da CIF para a população geral, para gestores públicos e legisladores. E aí a gente colocou alguns pontos que ainda dão confusão aí, né? A gente precisa clarificar um pouco melhor alguns conceitos, principalmente esses de atividade, participação, capacidade e desempenho, que a CIF coloca lá no anexo 4 as opções de uso, mas não tem um consenso assim, geral, né? E maior elaboração dos fundamentos teóricos do modelo. Então, isso daí com relação ao conhecimento da CIF. O segundo eixo, a aplicabilidade da CIF, a gente colocou aqui a integração com sistemas de informação, principalmente prontuário, né? A CIF desenvolver melhor instrumentos para aplicação clínica da CIF e avançar nas linking rules e desenvolvimento de tecnologias para facilitar o uso da CIF na captura de dados e na interpretação de dados de funcionalidade.
Eu acho que está faltando um ponto aí, talvez a Estela possa ajudar, que é o seguinte, na área de saúde do trabalhador, você também tem trabalhado com isso, né? Aí, emitindo laudos, pareceres, atestados, etc. Você não acha que cabe aí alguma abordagem nesse aspecto? Por exemplo, desenvolvimento de instrumentos para uso em causas trabalhistas, previdenciárias, inclusão no trabalho, na escola, né? E eu sei que existem, né? Mas a gente pode aprimorar, criar novas, né? Criar aí manuais. Você mesmo está enfrentando aí algumas dificuldades, né? No detalhamento, né? Porque assim, você consegue classificar a situação de qualquer pessoa na CIF. Agora, isso de modo algum significa que essa pessoa precisa de um benefício. E a gente precisa encontrar uma métrica. Eu não sei se métrica é a palavra certa, mas existe um ponto a partir do qual a pessoa precisa ser beneficiada. E embora a gente tenha uma ideia, eu acho que o desvio padrão ainda é muito grande. A gente tem que diminuir um pouco isso, né?
Qual que é o critério, né?
Exato.
Quais são os critérios para isso?
Eu acho que tem que pôr isso daí aí.
Critérios.
Causa trabalhista também, né? Porque os juízes pedem qualifique, quantifique a incapacidade laboral.
E aí, nesse âmbito aí, eu acho que tem uma coisa muito interessante que eu ouvi no Dr. Penteado falar. Ele coloca assim o papel do perito como educador também, assim, de mudar a forma, de contribuir para a mudança na forma dos próprios juízes pensarem, na forma dos processos. Exatamente, exatamente. E aí, à medida que a gente vai, né, fornecendo essas informações, esses laudos aí, a partir dessa perspectiva, o juiz vai começar a parar. Isso aqui é interessante, cara. Eu quero que os próximos informações que vocês vão me dar sejam nesse padrão aí.
Legal. E a terceira?
Eu quero que vocês usem a CIF. A terceira, usos da CIF, e aí vai entrar esse ponto que nós acabamos de comentar. Então, usos no contexto clínico, em políticas públicas, na educação, no contexto legal, jurídico, né? E aí vai ter que pensar em como que a gente vai... Acho que isso a gente não elaborou muito não, mas pensar em como trazer a CIF para cada contexto desse. Eu acho, gente, que a gente precisa atacar de todos os lados mesmo, assim, para que a CIF realmente seja amplamente usada e para que a gente consiga ter essa mudança de paradigma que a gente está discutindo. Isso a gente precisa atacar de todos os lados, na educação, na legislação, no âmbito jurídico, no contexto clínico. Então, cada um na sua área aí tem que ir empurrando essas mudanças. Eu acho que não tem necessariamente uma uma estrada, assim, primeiro a gente tem que garantir a saúde básica, e depois não sei o quê, acho que tem que ser tudo ao mesmo tempo mesmo, porque o troço é complexo.
Eu acho, Pedro, não sei o que vocês pensam, mas eu imagino que a gente precisa escrever coisas sucintas e extremamente práticas. Por exemplo, eu preciso inserir a CIF nas matrizes curriculares. Uma coisa prática é dizer, copiar ou usar como referência a resolução do Conselho Nacional de Saúde, que foi escrita para a fonoaudiologia, para as outras áreas da saúde. Percebe que isso é uma coisa mais prática? Já tem um caminho andado. Alguém já fez alguma coisa. Vamos usar isso como referência para o resto. Porque às vezes você fala assim, precisa usar CIF em políticas sociais. Puxa vida, mas isso é tão amplo, né? Aí, essa questão que você falou do Marcelo Penteado, ele criou um instrumento que se chama valoração da incapacidade laboral específica, VINLE. Então, o que nós podemos fazer? Eu não sei se vocês acham, eu não vejo nenhum problema, porque ele tem fins comerciais com o VILE, né? Mas eu não vejo problema da gente dizer que existe. Eu não sei o que vocês acham, mas para usar o VILE tem que pagar. Mas eu acho que pode mencionar, olha, existe esse instrumento, nós podemos criar semelhantes ou podemos usar esse.
Não, na verdade, sim, o que paga no VILE, Edu, é para você usar a plataforma dele. Se você montar as tabelas lá na mão,
isso,
não tem
então
problema.
É que nem a tabela extra, do mesmo jeito. Se você fizer
Exatamente.
você não faz. Então, eu acho que...
O lance do VILE é que ele busca já direto do CBO, né?
Ele junta
isso, a gente teria que fazer manualmente, mas dá para fazer.
Então, entende? Pontos práticos. Alguém já fez isso aqui. Então, a gente continua. A UFMG já tem coisa da CIF em curso de graduação.
Tem.
Então, a gente escreve pouco.
Tem.
Escreve pouco, mas coisas que tenham bastante aplicabilidade. A gente tem que ser o mais prático.
Factíveis, né?
Olha isso aqui, alguém fez isso. Que é o que tentei falar, não consegui me expressar em inglês. Eu acho que nós, no mundo inteiro, tem um monte de gente fazendo um monte de coisa. Mas, embora nós estejamos juntos, nós estamos separados, porque está todo mundo fazendo aqui, fazendo lá, mas a gente não consegue se juntar. Você vê esse Gurplet aí. Ele tem um trabalho excelente. Muita gente apresentou coisas incríveis aí, mas... Né, e a gente está distante. Tá bom? Deixa eu ir para os outros grupos aqui. Valeu.
Beleza, vai lá. The room.
Yeah, Eduardo is here.
Tá aí.
Are you tired? So we can stop whenever you want. Okay. The document is shared with you, and we have 7-10 days to finish that.
Okay.
Okay. So don't worry.
Sure. That's so nice. We'll give our feedback. So whatever is there. And it has been very nice, insightful symposium, Eduardo. Like my confessions that I'm just new to this, but I find, this is something which should be readily adopted. At least for the chronic diseases, I feel, as a doctor also, like we give the diagnosis and the management, that's so short-lived. The interaction is so short-lived. It defeats the purpose of, building those relationships, building a rapport, which a doctor and patient should have.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to, be a bit, have some discretion as well. But for the chronic disease management, and I thought like for rehabilitation, achieving the rehabilitation goals, which will be a pressure on all the governments, for 2030. ICF has a major role to play. Without ICF, I don't know how, I don't see any way they can achieve it. So that is something which should come up. Mauro, you are muted.
Mauro,
not only for rehabilitation. Not only for rehabilitation.
Yes.
Are we having end speech, or are we ending with this room now, the whole conference? I would have some party still after this.
In 5 or 10 minutes, I will take you all to the big room, and I will invite you, Gurpreet, to take a little speech and say bye-bye to everyone.
Sure, I'll do that.
5 minutes.
I'll do that. 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes? No,
Yeah,
we have 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, I need to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So, is it possible to
Ok, e aí?
Tudo bem, pessoal? Desculpa interromper de novo. Em uns 5 minutos está todo mundo voltando para a sala grande, tá? E aí o Gurpreet vai fazer o encerramento e a gente pode continuar discutindo, quer dizer, escrevendo nos próximos dias lá na plataforma no Google Drive, tá bom?
Perfeito.
Valeu.
I can also take 2 minutes off and then join. Go to the show.
Comigo, tá?
Valéria, você falou que ia embora e tá aqui ainda. Tudo bem, hein?
Mas o troço tá chique. Sobretudo porque agora entrou um aluno meu.
Olha só, em menos de 5 minutos a gente volta para a sala maior, tá? E aí o grupo vai fazer vai fazer a despedida do evento, mas os arquivos continuam compartilhados, as pessoas já estão escrevendo lá, que eu estou vendo aqui um monte de gente mexendo nos arquivos.
Ó, tá vendo? Tá vendo? Eu disse que a gente não precisava ficar falando muito.
Tá bom? Até
a gente tem que modificar muito aquilo ali, Eduardo. Explicita pra gente.
Você tá livre. Aquilo foi no ano passado. Sabe o que eu estava falando com o Pedro? A gente precisa de coisas mais práticas. Por exemplo, as pessoas colocam, eu preciso ensinar na graduação. Isso é muito superficial. Dá para fazer o seguinte: a fonoaudiologia tem uma resolução lá do Conselho Nacional de Saúde. Um exemplo, um tópico.
Ok.
Usa isso como referência. Então, eu vou colocar, usa a resolução 630, sei lá qual que é, lá, tá? Para as outras áreas da saúde. Essa é a nossa recomendação, sabe? Pontual. Porque tem coisa já construída. Tem gente
o que eu posso colocar também, por exemplo, é a optativa da CIF, que eu faço lá na UFTM, para dar sugestão para os outros, quem sabe se não estão fazendo, o fazerem também. Se aquilo ali ainda não faz parte da grade curricular, e por aí vai.
O Pedro mencionou, é isso mesmo. O Pedro mencionou, por exemplo, um instrumento lá que chama valoração da incapacidade laboral específica. É de um médico do trabalho. É baseado na CIF, esse negócio.
Compartilha com a gente.
Então, é um site. Mas a gente pode colocar no documento. A gente pode colocar lá, olha, fulano, do mesmo jeito que a gente tem a resolução como referência, esse instrumento, porque pode criar outros, não tem problema fazer uma propaganda do instrumento que ele fez. O que interessa é que a CIF foi usada nisso, né? E eu acho que vale a pena mostrar, senão a gente não vai andar. Tem muita gente criando coisas que pessoas já criaram. Sabe? Quanto mais prático.
Aí é muito questão de pesquisa, né? Por exemplo, eu tenho que criar vergonha na cara, porque eu já validei um instrumento que avalia participação. Você sabe disso, Eduardo? Nós conversamos quando eu estava no doutorado, né? Participação e autonomia. Pois é, então o que eu tenho que fazer? Publicar para liberar isso daí para os físios e TOs, tá bom? E pode ter psicólogo também. Eu fiz assim para ela, ó, Eduardo. Ó.
Já estou chamando vocês lá, tá?
Tá bom. Tá bom, tchau. Gostei demais.
We start in 1 minute. Gurpreet, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
there. Yeah,
Wonderful.
sure. Are all the participants back?
1 minute, 25 seconds.
Sure.
Okay, everybody together again. So group it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so it was a very rich learning experience for all of us. 2 days of this international symposium, and on the behalf of the Brazil team, I would like to thank everyone. Like Eduardo has given me this opportunity, so I am thanking everyone on the behalf of CIF Brazil, and we should be, coming back together next year, though we have not got the inputs as to which country will be hosting it, but definitely whatever the feedback is, I'm sure we all can share with Eduardo, and then we can have a decision on that. That's the first thing. We need to meet together again. Secondly, it was a big learning experience. Everyone, all the experts from different fields sharing their views. Some of the views were personal as well, like me, and the others were more of technical types, but we really enjoyed it. And I think we are all leaving this rich and quite learned from whatever was shared. Different topics we came to know about the WHO DAS 2.0, about the human functioning, then about the statistics part, about the implementation in the clinical aspects, everything. So I think each one of us can look into the finer points of that and see how this can be incorporated in the system. The other thing which was coming, like in our break groups, we had a discussion as to how this ICF can be incorporated in the curriculum. So we found that it is useful for all. It is useful in the education, it is useful in the health. Like these are the two main which I know, but it is for everyone, even in the environment, everywhere. Because when we see about the biopsychosocial effect, we need to have a big consideration, and each one of us should be knowing about the application. So it is up to the ICF education group how fast we can get this incorporated with the view of that 2030 goal, SDG goal of rehabilitation. I'm a bit call it focused on that goal, because from the health point of view, the rehabilitation point of view is a passionate topic for me. So the countries are coming up with the rehabilitation part. Like in India also, they've asked for the proposal, the inputs for the National Institute of Disability Studies, Rehabilitation Science and Research. Once these institutions come up, the early intervention centers come up, I think there's no other way except for ICF to be implemented. How else are we going to get the things moving? If we don't have ICF, we cannot think about rehabilitation at all. Think about the statistics, the proper planning. The data is missing out. We need to have the data right from the grassroots. How to make it, how to have that language. Basically, it's the developing of that language, which the grassroots workers will be able to get the data, and then that feedback goes to the government, that gets incorporated in the census or in the statistics, everything from where the policies and all are made, the rehabilitation, everything, it depends right from the grassroots level. So we need to do that in a manner which makes it effective. So I would say that the earlier we start, the better. The governments will also be pressurized that they have this rehabilitation goal in mind.
SDG goal of 2030, and other targets also, like in this Indian group for the Asia Pacific and all, they should be seeing whether the rehabilitation goal is being met or not. And everywhere we are just reverting back to ICF. So that is the importance. And Eduardo has shared the email ID, like the Google Doc for giving your email IDs. So kindly give that, as well as we need to have the inputs from all the participants regarding to have a consensus statement, which I think should be, put forward to the WHO also, that this is the consensus statement. We need these goals, and accordingly, that should be of great help. So thank you from my side. Thank you, everyone. It has been very rich, and I congratulate Eduardo and the Team Brazil and all the speakers who you have enlightened us with your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Okay, it was amazing. I would like to see your face, to have a picture. If you can show, open your cameras. Marina, thank you. Gisela, Estela, Elise, Evandro. Liliana, Marjorie. Hello, Giselle. Okay, let's go. Come on. Elise. You can take. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. It has been great to collaborate, and let's continue with this good work and sharing good ideas and data and positivism.
Very good to know you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hope to see you soon.